Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Grand Page. I am your most humble and obedient servant, the Page Ghost. I think it was last week I uploaded a video talking about Absolute Batman, the first graphic novel release of that, collecting issues 1 through 6, my recommendation of it. And I prefaced the video with my experiences with Batman, growing up with the character, what he means to me, and that sort of thing. And I realized a lot of the examples I gave, if not all of them, were all television based. And I felt like that was looking back on it in retrospect, I feel like that's a disservice to the character and his origins. And so I wanted to fix that by talking about my own collection of comics of Batman, my experience reading the character, and talk about him proper, so to speak. This isn't going to be a review of any individual story or even necessarily a look at everything that I own, but just certain ones that kind of stood out to me while I was going through my collection, my overall thoughts on them, what I like about them, that sort of thing. Just sort of a fun little discussion about my collection. So without further ado, I thought it would be a little appropriate to talk about this collection here called Batman Chronicles Volume 1. Admittedly, it's the only volume of Batman Chronicles that I have because all that I was really interested in was having at least a kind of copy of the first appearance of Batman. And it has, let me actually review here, it has Detective Comics number 27, where Batman first appears, and it goes all the way through issue 38 and Batman number 1. And so it chronicles, obviously, Batman's first appearance, the first explanation of his origins, why he became Batman. It also has the first issues introducing Robin, introducing Joker, Hugo Strange. Dr. Hugo Strange is the villain in a lot of the issues of this. Admittedly, I haven't read the whole thing. Again, my main thing was I wanted to read that very first issue of Batman. This isn't just in relation to this particular issue. It's in relation to most of these older comics. It's really hard to go back to those days with the captions that are explaining everything that's happening on the page. If you ever happen to pick up one of those older comics where the captions, like at the top of a comic panel or something, are explaining what's happening in the comic itself, I find often that you can just straight up skip those captions and just observe what's being put on the panel, and you can at the very least infer, if not the panel itself just tells you what's happening, which is really a celebration, not celebration, it's how would you put it, it illustrates that the artist did a good job in telling the story without using words. So I don't know where you would pick this up, because this was, oh man, how old is this? This was printed, reprinted. That's worth looking into. This is an old print, at least. Old as in, like, it's probably early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not seeing good credits here. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on trying to find, like, the proper copyright or anything here. Bottom line, this has probably been in print for a good long while, and so I don't know if you'd be able to find a cheap copy of this necessarily. It's going for $14.99 if you get it from an official store, but if you wanted to look at that first story of Batman, you'd find it in something like this. My next one is Batman Earth 1. I have all 3 volumes. I've read 1 and 2. I haven't gotten to volume 3 yet. Most likely what happened is I probably started it and something happened, got busy, just life happens. But Batman Earth 1 is Earth One might be a good example of like different takes on these characters before the Absolute line came out. Although the different takes aren't all that different. So like his parents are still dead, murdered by a crook. But he's sort of, first of all, this is like sort of his early years as Batman. He's sort of struggling a little bit. They dive a little more into the background of his parents and stuff like that. There's a vastly different origin story for Two-Face. Very different origin story for Two-Face. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, a different origin story for Killer Croc as well. So, definitely a good introduction to Batman, and just overall a good collection of stories. I've heard good things about Volume 3. Again, I haven't officially read it. I think a big thing that I really liked about the Earth 1 series is the graphic novel form. They don't have like individual issues or anything like that. They have more complete, contained stories in these sort of larger forms. So I like that a lot about it. Next is the Scott Snyder run, the New 52 Batman series. I'm only showing you the one volume, but I actually have the entire New 52 run of Batman. And I've heard a lot of criticisms about New 52 and looking at a lot of the characters and stuff. For example, there's a lot of criticism on the Superman Wonder Woman relationship, and I do agree with that criticism. I never liked Superman and Wonder Woman as a potential couple. If I'm not mistaken, though, I don't think New 52 did that first. I think it was Kingdom Come with Alex Ross and I forget the writer, but I'm pretty sure Alex Ross was the artist. But the bottom line, New 52 wasn't the first one to come up with Superman and Wonder Woman being a thing. I personally never liked that. I liked the idea of Wonder Woman being with a regular man, because she's this ambassador for the Amazons, going to the world of man, speaking on behalf of man, coming in the name of peace. And so I think it would be very appropriate for her, just characterization wise, to end up with a regular, like a human, a regular man. I've always been very personal to the Bruce and Diana relationship. That might be because of my upbringing with the DC animated universe, specifically with the Justice League cartoons. There are several episodes that either hint at or outright make this kind of claim to them having some kind of dynamic. I wish they would have committed to that, but I also understand why they didn't. You know, they're superheroes. They have things going on. Particularly Batman, you know, he's always busy fighting crime in Gotham City and everything. But I've always been partial to that relationship. Not only is she dating a man, but she's dating arguably the best man, so to speak, right? You got this guy who's completely mastered his mind, mastered his body. He's sort of like this pinnacle of what man is capable of. And so you got like sort of this best Wonder Woman, and then sort of this best man. Sort of makes a little bit more sense for me, relationship wise. And aside from Andrea Beaumont, I never saw like I've never liked the Batman Catwoman dynamic, because she's a thief. Even in the animated series, when she's this like this sort of Robin Hood kind of thief, I never liked the idea that Batman would get with a criminal. And so it just made more sense to get with Wonder Woman. Anyways, that was a very, very long tangent. I would at least recommend giving the first 2 volumes of the New 52 run of Batman a try. That would essentially be the Court of Owls storyline. After that, if you really, really liked it, give 0 Year a try, because that sort of expands things a bit more. I personally wasn't a big fan of Commissioner Gordon being Batman, but I liked the Amnesiac Batman storyline and him finding himself again, that sort of thing. The Joker story was cool, but his face being cut off, I still don't understand the exact backstory on that to this day. And so that was a little weird for that to be part of the Scott Snyder run. Bottom line, these first issues of the New 52 Batman, I think, are at least worth a read. And then as you get a little further into it, it gets a little more difficult to read. But it's certainly not anything horrible. I also grew up on this line, the New 52 line, so that might be muddying my opinions on it. Might be a little bit of nostalgia there. Next here I have Batman R.I.P. And this is a collection of the Batman run that occurred either during or after Final Crisis. Was it Final? Yeah, Final Crisis, I'm pretty sure. Where Barry Allen returns and Batman dies. And this sort of lines up with events around that. The Batman R.I.P. story is pretty cool, but what I actually like better is more specifically the issues that specifically line up with the Final Crisis. So there's this part in Final Crisis where Batman is put in sort of this cryostasis situation, and his mind is used to help create Darkseid's army. Could be a little mistaken on some of those details. It's been a while since I've read this. But what I like specifically about this are the issues that cover that story. I'm trying to see here. It's not telling me on the back. Usually it tells me on the back what issues they are. But it's like 2 or 3 comic issues called Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader. And it's sort of this timeline run through of a lot of events in Batman's life. And I really, really like that about it. It's sort of this review of Batman, who he is, what made him who he is. And yeah, I liked that look back and this sort of idea of how his trauma, his grief, and everything that he has been through. Because whenever you talk about Batman, a lot of people just talk about his parents being killed and that being his driving force. But being a hero, your trauma, your horrible things happening to you, it doesn't end with your origin story. A lot more horrible things happen to Batman along the way. The first Robin leaves him to become his own hero. Jason Todd is murdered by Joker. He loses other allies along the way. He's kicked from the Justice League at one point. He's in an issue that we're going to talk about, his back is broken by Bane, and he has to recover from that, right? And so his home is invaded, and that Alfred is hurt. And so I liked that sort of deep dive into his trauma and his ability to deal with those traumatic experiences and to push forward despite how bad things got for him. And the idea that if anyone else tries to sort of undergo this process and just use those things as ways to make sort of the ultimate army, it doesn't end up the same way, because Batman has that time to process those events, but also he has that discipline and willingness to deal with them. Next, a big personal favorite of mine, Batman Hush. This is probably my earliest experience with reading Batman comics. I remember my dad getting the individual issues of this, and I remember waiting every month for the next issue to come out. My dad collects the individual issues, but as I got older and I started getting money and stuff, I preferred these collections here. But I really, really love Batman Hush. I love the mystery aspect, and I love that they introduced this new villain. That's very, very interesting. It's sort of this twist on the Batman origin, so to speak, and his ties to Bruce Wayne. It's very, very interesting. Really, really good artwork from Jim Lee. Kind of going back to what I talked with about Batman R.I.P., that storyline of whatever happened to the Caped Crusader. There is I think they actually call it an interlude, right? This sort of break in the narrative where Batman's kind of trying to figure out what his next move is, and Catwoman's trying to help him out, and she's looking at his scars and everything that he's gone through over time, and recognizes some scars that she caused herself. And she sort of explores why does he do this, and she talks with Alfred about it. Very interesting interlude, and overall really, really good story. Very early memories of this. I don't think this one's nostalgia at all. I think this is just a good story. Batman Hush. Next we have Batman Nightfall. I got this collection because, what was it? I wanted a really good story with Bane, and I'd heard a lot of really good about Batman Nightfall. It might be my favorite Batman story, which is kind of weird because technically he loses the fight with Bane at the end. But what I really like is seeing, it's kind of weird to say it like this, but seeing Batman suffer, so to speak. It's not so much that I enjoy his suffering, it's that despite his suffering, he pushes forward. I only hope that I could have 10% of that persistence, of that motivation, of that discipline. Because basically what Bane does is he lets out a whole bunch of criminals to plague Gotham, and throughout this entire series leading up to Bane and Batman's fight, Batman is just going on no sleep. He's getting as much help as he can from Robin and other heroes in the city, but as usual he's putting more on his own shoulders than others. He's really stretching himself thin, and then you finally get to that climactic showdown with Bane, and he tries. Golly, does he try? But it was all just too much. He couldn't deal with it, and so Bane's plan essentially works, and he ends up breaking Batman's back. But I really love that idea of despite the suffering, you move forward because the good, fighting for the good, is worth that suffering. And so I really like that message about the story. These last two, nobody's going to be surprised by. Batman Dark Knight Returns. I'm sure everyone and their mother has heard of Batman Dark Knight Returns. Really, really good graphic novel. Man, what can I say that hasn't been said about this? I really like, people like to use nowadays the Batman versus Superman idea very antagonistically. And I don't entirely agree with that. I feel like it was done, hot take, I feel like it was done pretty well in Batman v Superman, the Zack Snyder movie. I'm actually, I guess you would say I'm a Snyder apologist, so to speak. I can talk about that in another video. Although, if you want to see a little bit of my thoughts on that, I talk about it in my Man of Steel video when I rewatched that. But I really like the idea that doing good and wanting to do good and wanting things to be better and making sure that criminals pay for their crimes doesn't end just because you get old. You could make the argument that he's so old that, like, how's he doing all of this still? Admittedly, that's all a bit of a stretch, especially against criminals that are like the mutants. The mutants are very clearly, like, all of them, not even just the leader of the mutants. They're all on something, right? And so it's a bit of a stretch that he's doing as well as he's doing in this. But you kind of suspend your disbelief because you wanna believe that Batman doesn't stop being Batman. Going back to that idea of Batman versus Superman, I really like that fight between them because I've never read Superman necessarily as the villain in that. He's an antagonist, but that doesn't make him a villain. It's a world where Superman, or not Superman, but superheroes are outlawed, particularly vigilantes. And that really the only way for you to be a hero anymore, for you to be a superhero, you have to be vetted by the government. So if anything, the bad guy in this is the government. And Superman has always been a character that... How do you put this? It's not like it's not as simple as he's some goody two-shoes, but he wants to work with the system. He wants to work with the system. He doesn't want to be viewed as a criminal by the people. But you can make the argument that he took things a step too far because now he's fighting on behalf of America in wars to further America's agenda. And that's not a dig at his quote, his catchphrase, so to speak. I fight for truth, justice, and the American way. I certainly believe that he does, and it's unfortunate that has been taken away from his character in recent years. But the American way certainly is not invading other countries just because, right? Although, to be fair, I don't know if they necessarily ever spell out why they're going to war in this series, but you don't necessarily need the reasoning per se. It would probably help to expand on it, but again, the main story is about Batman, not Superman anyways. But yeah, it's not like Superman is some goody two-shoes. He wants to continue being a superhero, and he might have compromised in one or two areas, and Batman's kind of calling him out on that. And on the flip side, like, Batman sees himself as a criminal. He knows he's against the law. It's not like he's not doing this and thinking, well, I'm in the right and everyone else is in the wrong. He's like, no, I know I'm a criminal. I'm just doing what's necessary because they won't do it. I don't think it's in the comic, but if you watch the animated movie of this, technically it's 2 parts. But if you watch that second part of the movie with his fight against Superman, they have this really good quote in there about how Batman's willing to do what the government, essentially, won't, and they can't stop me. What kind of authority is that? And I feel like that's a really, really good Batman quote. And then my final one is another Frank Miller book. It's Batman Year One. Again, these last two I figured everybody was going to know about. Batman Year One, phenomenal read. The Batman Begins got a lot of inspiration from this. So I really like that about it. And it's a good, really, really good introduction to Batman, his origin, him coming home. Also, really good examination of Commissioner Gordon before he's commissioner. He's a detective in this. He's trying to catch Batman. Probably the weakest thing I'd say about it is its ending. Because the ending doesn't end with Batman. He's actually like undercover at the end trying to help out Commissioner Gordon. But what I really like are the police's attempts to try and capture Batman and all the tricks that they try and implement. And he can see right through them. It's really funny. And then of course his interactions with the criminals too is really good. And you see some of his first outings as Batman and how he's still sort of figuring things out. It's not as smooth as he would like it to be, but it's his first time out as Batman. He's kind of figuring things out. This is certainly not an exhaustive deep dive look into everything that I have. If you see that top shelf back there, I actually have a lot more Batman stuff that I didn't talk about. Specifically, I have the Long Halloween and Dark Victory books. I read Long Halloween a long time ago. I think I needed to mature a little bit more before reading that because I remember finishing Long Halloween, but I don't remember a lot about it. I remember liking the artwork, so that was really good. And and then I remember some details about the story here and there, but I don't remember as much as I probably should. So I probably read it a little too young to sort of retain it. So I'll certainly fix that one day. I also have like the Three Jokers storyline. That was fine. I also have Dark Knight's Metal. That was from the New 52 line again with Scott Snyder and the different versions of Batman. I liked the different versions of Batman and how they explain how he became those different versions. But I also understand the side of the aisle with the criticism that, introducing the Infinite Universes thing, sort of introduces this problem of there being too many versions of Batman. It's a way to capitalize on Batman without using Batman over and over again. My one biggest gripe with Dark Knight's Metal, I've never been that invested in the Dark Knight Who Laughs. I think the Joker Batman blender thing, that was always kind of weird to me. So I guess a Green Lantern Batman is fine, but the Joker Batman is just too far. I know it's kind of weird. What else do I have back there? Those are sort of the main things that stick out to me. But yeah, again, my main thing about this video, give some recommendations, but more importantly, set the record straight after my absolute Batman review, because I talked a little too much, I think, about the movies and television representations of Batman when Batman is originally a comic book character, and want to set the record straight and let you know I've read plenty of Batman comics. So everything that I've shown to you today, essentially I recommend to varying degrees, and hopefully I spelled that out a little bit. But yeah, definitely recommend, just in general, Batman as a character. Absolutely fantastic. And I can't express that enough. With all that coming to a close, as always, I am your most humble and obedient servant, the Page Ghost.